Hello, guys, and welcome to the latest MSC Performance podcast with me, Mark Coulson, and Mr. Luke Rogers. It's been a while since the two of us have podded together.
It has
How
been
long
a,
has it been
it's been well, Joe Matthews, but that was a group one.
as a twosome?
This is nice
It's
because
been a while, hasn't it?
we're at Casa de Rudge.
We
We're
are,
at
we
Luke's
are.
flat for
Change of scenery, change
mix
of
it up.
scenery, change of scenery out of the gloomy office and into the
The light,
bachelor pad
the
of
bachelor pad.
St Paul's Square.
Yeah.
Say no more. Um, yeah, a couple of topics today. Well, three topics we're gonna talk through. The first one's going to be based around goal setting. A chat with Mr. Clark last week. Good pal of mine. Just talking about how since he's retired from rugby, like he really doesn't need any specific goals for his training. He just loves training, and he's sort of comparing that with his brother who needs a marathon or he needs a half marathon. We're going to kind of talk about goal setting, like internal, external,
Yeah.
intrinsic, extrinsic, if you like, and that'll be quite an interesting discussion, I think. We're also going to talk about RPEs, and Luke thought of this topic because I think you've seen a couple of people in Barbell Club, some people overshooting, some people undershooting a little bit in terms of how to judge intensity of training,
Yeah.
really. So we'll go into that, and we're going to finish off actually with a complete change of subject, and we're going to go into the subject of kids and strength conditioning and training in the gym. Sort of talking roughly between the ages of 11 to 16. There's been quite a bit of interest from a lot of people who have contacted us asking about the work we do with kids. I think off the back of the Commonwealth Games, off the back of probably a couple of things that we've posted with a couple of the young athletes that we've got. There's a real kind of interest at the moment
There's definitely
in
a
that
buzz in the
side
air,
of
isn't
thing.
there? There's
There
definitely a
is. There's
buzz.
something happening. Yeah, definitely. And there's a bit of chat about we'll be releasing some news soon about us partnering with a youth football team. We're obviously looking to do some bits with. We're obviously sponsoring the Bourneville first team rugby at the moment. We're looking to do some stuff with the kids there potentially, and obviously we do work with the school and all these kind of things. So I think and British weightlifting as well. A little bit of chat there about doing some stuff for youth weightlifters. So there's definitely a buzz in the air at the moment about people realizing that they kids can train in the gym, and some of those old myths about doing weights and stunting growth and things have been sort of debunked quite
It's
properly now.
definitely, yeah, without getting too much into, well, I guess we could get into the kids thing straight away.
Well, let's start with that. Why not?
Yeah,
Why
I
not?
think it's becoming a lot more common knowledge. There's a lot like stuff like Squat University are very vocal about kids taking part in
Mm,
team sports. And I think Squat University has gone from being like a niche page now to being like openly available. It's gone massive. And he's very, very positive about the benefits to children.
yeah,
And he talks a lot about the myth being debunked of stunting growth.
yeah.
And I think that all comes from like the best weightlifters are always going to be short and the best
That's literally
powerlifters are
where
going
it's
to be
come from.
short.
There's literally where it's come from. Like, there's not a single study out there that's
Yeah.
ever shown that to be a thing. And if you think about it, even if you haven't got a coaching background or an S&C background, like if you actually just stop and think about that statement of like, it's like, what is a bargainer, like squash you down and make you shorter, like,
Compresses your
but
spine for
yeah,
inches and
exactly. But you're absolutely right. I think where that's come from is that people see like top Olympic lifters and top power lifters, and they tend to
they're all
be
short.
very short and very
But that's where I started playing
very
basketball
stocky.
because they're all really tall. So I thought, wow, I'm going to start playing basketball. And then within
All of a
months,
sudden,
I'll be
yeah,
6'7".
yeah, yeah,
It's perfect. Yeah, you
absolutely,
become whatever sport you play.
absolutely,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
it's funny because you talk about. I don't want to get too far off the topic of kids, but I was watching the beach volleyball,
Mm.
and the one guy, the two positions, there's a shorter guy at the back and there's a taller guy at the front that's kind of defending the net, and the one guy was about 6'10". And the guy behind me was like, "This isn't fair. This isn't fair that he's playing." I'm like, "But that is literally elite sport.
It's
The
life and
people,
elite
yeah,
sport.
the
Like,
people that get to the top of those sports are always going to be predetermined and genetically well endowed to it. I could try my best to be the best blocker in the world, and I'm not going to succeed at beach volleyball."
Yeah.
The 6'10" guy that plays the sport is absolutely going to get to the top.
Yeah.
And that's the same with the powerlifting. There'll be people that are like 6'5", same with weightlifters that might not quite make it, but the shorter people that, you know, train as hard, it's not as easy just being short making it, but they're going to be more predisposition to make it. And I think people know that now, and it's not quite as common as it was. And people think now that, well, yeah, it's getting debunked. And you see everyone now, and people are realizing that, especially in America, people at 11 and 13 are doing strength training. And you see the working, like Texas in particular, seem to be leading it. Their strength and conditioning
wow.
is just ridiculous for like football. And you see like kids doing like single leg step ups. You see them doing variations of cleans, front squats, and it's great to see.
I saw this one clip, and it's literally like, was it even a high school? I think they were like even like primary school or something ridiculous. They're about 10 years old. There's literally a row of like 20 squat racks, and like they're all doing like proper, all at the same time, like unracking the bar, empty bar, stepping out, like, you know, proper
really regimented. It's great.
Absolutely unreal. So
is that with the zombie front squat? I've seen them.
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
And
it's
then
definitely a school in
towards
Texas. I don't know where it is, but like,
yeah,
it's unreal. But yeah, like the old, you know, I'm going to start swimming because I want a swimmer's body, or you know, something like that. And it's yeah, like you say, I think you could go back to your volleyball thing. Like you could become pretty good at it, but like
never going to make the 1%.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's the same if I wanted to, like, you know, be a world class Olympic lifter. It's probably not going to happen. Like I could become good at it, but you know, it's not particularly angled at, you know, longer limbed and, you know, taller people. So yeah, but yeah, with the kids thing, I think hopefully now that word is spreading. You know, there's no scientific evidence, and never has been, to suggest that, you know, lifting weights is going to stunt your growth. It's just not. It's just not going to happen. So therefore, okay, is it, you know, if it's not going to do that, like what other dangers are there? And you know, I think, you know, powerlifting, for example, is as an example of a sport within, you know, lifting weights, has I believe a very low injury rate in comparison to 90 odd percent. I think I can't remember the study exactly, but I have read something.
It's like 5 injuries every 10,000 hours or 1,000. It's super low.
It's super low, and this is based around guys who are actually pushing the limits of lifting weights as well, who are pretty experienced and pretty, you know, and lifting, you know, very, very heavy weights. So
the only problem I've got with that, and not to contradict you, the only problem I've got with that is when they say, like, what classifies as an injury. For me, an injury is something where you have to modify your training.
Yeah.
People that lift weights to a good level will always have a little bit of an ache and pain. But I guess like most sports do, like rugby players will too. So I guess it depends what their definition. But like the injury rate in powerlifting and weightlifting is super, super low.
Yeah.
Especially compared to like rugby, where you're getting hit side on. Football is terrible for it.
Yeah. There's more external factors, isn't there, with football, rugby?
Yeah, the more closed it is, the easier it is.
Closed sport like powerlifting, weightlifting, you're in control. You know, there's nothing fighting back. I mean, obviously, you know, lifting serious, apart from the bar, but like, you know what I mean. There's no external forces that like coming in at different angles, or, you know, anything like that. So the injury rates in football, rugby, tennis, cricket, you know, athletics, much higher than they are in sports where the sport is lifting weights. So that alone really shows you that lifting weights is safe.
Could even take the study further from there, because I think it's like Olympic lift. So it's like, I think out of all the strength sports, strongman is the highest. Then I think it's weightlifting. Then I think it's powerlifting. The lowest is bodybuilding, because then obviously the absolute load that they're lifting is going to be, for most people, a little bit less.
Yeah.
So when you're looking at bodybuilding, it's so low. So just doing strength training in the gym, so low in terms of injury rate.
100%. And you know, with that, I think, you know, if you're doing it in a, you know, working with kids, you're doing that in a controlled manner, a good gym who can cater for it, you know, who know what they're doing, with good coaching, then it really is as safe as it's going to be. The same as you'd go and join a football club, you'd get coached how to play football, you get coached how to play rugby, you know, you get coached how to lift weights, you know, safely and effectively. And really with kids, I mean, you know, as long as you know, there's certain considerations to take, of course, but you know, it is literally just like, you know, very minimal resistance to begin with, progressive overload. It's not a whole lot different to training an adult. There is certain things to think about. Stability and motor control can be a little bit different with kids, for example, and because a lot of young kids, especially, are like super mobile. That's something to be a bit wary of controlling the descent on a squat, for example. But again, if it's done in a controlled manner with a good coach, there's absolutely very very minimal risk there whatsoever. And of course, with building strength and good athletic qualities, there's going to be not only small risk of injury in the gym, there's going to be less risk of injury on the sports field as well. So building up strength. That's what we're trying to do in the gym is to create force with the loads that we're lifting. But the sport is about producing and absorbing forces. You get stronger in the gym. The forces that you undertake in a game of football, repetitive sprints, change directions, jumping, sprinting, turning. There's a lot of force going through the body, and if the body's stronger, you can do good weight training. That's going to reduce the chances of injuries, and there's always some risk, of course, but if we can certainly reduce the risk of soft tissue injuries.
Yeah,
for sure. So yeah, I think
there's so many other benefits as well of being like in the gym. Like forget about like sports as well, like the confidence to be in the gym. Like for adults now, you see people coming in that are so scared of going in the gym. So if you get comfortable being in that environment from a young age, that is setting you up 100%. For a lifetime of not happiness, but it's setting up for a lifetime of physical activity, which is massive.
I agree. I think it's such an important point. I think like using two girls who trained down at MSC, Amy and Lucy, Mick and Louise, are members of MSC, and their kids come down. And I remember Mick saying to us, like on day one, was the biggest thing for him. And bearing in mind these girls are super super talented, like in their sports, very very talented. But the big thing for Mick, like even more important than that, was he was just like, I just love them to, when they get to 15, 16, 18, 20, whatever, like training in the gym is just a part of their life. It's a normal thing, and they can go into a gym at 17, 18 or whatever and feel completely confident in what they're doing, and it's a normal thing for them. They're not getting to that age where with a lot of young people, not just girls, but like you go into a gym and you're a bit intimidated. You're not really sure what you're doing or where to start. But by the time they get to that age, they just turned 11 and 12. They were 10 and 11 when they started. By the time they get to 16, 17, 18, like
they've had 5 years under the belt of good training. 5 years
of like crazy. Good, solid like training. They're going to be confident. They go off to uni or whatever. They're going to be confident in in what they're doing. And that was the big thing for him was, look, if they make it, great, and like they've got the qualities needed. But the big thing is like making them like confident young women, like when they grow up, that it's just being healthy and fit and active and strong is normal, and making them tough as well, which is cool.
I think, absolutely. I think that's coming from Mick as a background as a PT, didn't he?
Yeah.
So like, obviously he's really passionate then about that lifestyle that you can get from it. I also like the discipline element, and I think all people being involved in some kind of sport or like club, like dance or something like that, is massive. So having like the structure to be like, I train at a gym 2 to 3 times a week. These are the times that I train. This is my training program. This is what I do. The discipline and then motivation that comes with that to complete is massive as well for other elements of your life. And I think having that as like a steady part of your life is huge.
100%. 100%. Yeah. I couldn't agree more. I was even talking about that yesterday, actually, with a client of mine, Mark, who's won't mind me saying an older gentleman, but we were talking about he loves sport, he loves training in the gym, and we're talking actually about the discipline of having like sport and exercise, for, it wasn't specifically kids, but we were talking about like people who had problems in their lives or from difficult backgrounds and things like that, and just like it's such a massive thing logistically to like solve. I don't know if you're ever going to solve it, but like just putting that person in a football team or down in a in an MSC performance in a community gym,
Yeah.
in a barbell club, where it's like you're working in with your mates, you're spotting each other, you're getting better at something. Your discipline of turning up to something, twice a week, 3 times a week or whatever it is,
And it's so
and sticking at something.
and it's so quantifiable to like, I think like when you look at other sports, it can be like, am I getting better at football? Am I getting better at playing rugby?
Can be hard to measure.
It's really hard to measure, but when it's really quantifiable, like lifting weights is, it's like, oh, last week I did 50 kilos.
Yeah.
This week I've made some great progress. I'm lifting 55 kilos. That is super easy to see the progress. And that is just such a good thing for people when they're struggling, just to have that kind of purpose and say, oh, all my effort is really making a difference in what I'm doing. And that's just something that's really transferable to the rest of life.
Yeah, 100%. And then, on the topic we're talking today, like with the kids, imagine that, like you're installing that discipline, the
discipline and
like
confidence.
Mixed girls now, they come in twice a week. It's a part of their life now. It's a discipline of like, and they can see they're getting better. It's and the joy they get from that, like that. They're lifting a bit more weight, or now they're able to do a snatch or whatever it is really, really cool. They both want to compete now in weightlifting.
Yeah.
So another sport to add to the millions they do already. But like it's
the flip to that, what you're saying is, when I was 16, I went to a gym through like enrichment, and it was just like you had a gym day pass and you could just turn up at the gym and you did what you want. And I didn't have a clue. I loved the gym. I didn't know what I was doing in there, but I loved going to the gym. And I reckon from the ages of 16 to 21, I trained like an absolute goon.
Same. Yeah.
What I would have given to
Imagine
have
these girls now.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the time they're 21, they've had 10 years experience training in the gym. Like, I
remember going to the gym and like I didn't know how to control anything. I was just going on random machine, left, right. I didn't do any good structured training for about 5 years.
Yeah.
To have that 5 years back of good training, it would have been huge. So like, just
imagine going back and just like, just doing the basics, progressive overload, getting strong,
learning good control, good movements. Yeah. I was going at like, I was super passionate. Like I was training hard. I just didn't know what I was doing though. And I was just turning up and doing something.
It's a lot better than nothing.
Yeah. But like to have that opportunity and I think it's so much easier now as well. Like you've got the internet, there's more research out there. Obviously you have to then be able to dissect what is good and what is bad, because there's a lot of shit out there as well. But it's a little bit easier now. But if you can just find some good structure or a good coach or someone that's going to look after you and help you with a little bit of guidance in those early days, is huge.
Massively. I think if you're starting a bit late, you're 16, 17, 18,
late
chance late in comparison to what we're talking about. You probably can't, you're probably not in a position to afford like, PT, regular coaching, but there's probably enough like good sources out there, online coaches, like, people, like there might be at MSC and other good gyms where, you can contact a coach and have you can do an hour, in an hour, you can learn some really good stuff about how to squat, bench, deadlift, take that away with you, practice, book in again a bit later down the line, that sort of thing. So I think there's, maybe something in that. So yeah, I mean, if you're listening and you've got kids and you're thinking about, whether they'll be able to train down the gym, just get in touch with a gym, reputable gym. I think an independent gym is your best way to go, with a good qualified strength and conditioning coach, and go from there.
And I guess if you don't know where to start with there, like if they're a part of a team, speak to the team, see if there's anyone they recommend, because they'll normally have a contact that will do some kind of gym. And it's such a small knit world that there'll be like the team that you're playing for might know a gym that would recommend, or they might be able to help with a bit of gym work.
Absolutely, yeah. To move into goal setting.
Go for it.
So just to recap what we were saying at the start, with goal setting, I think there's it was just an interesting conversation I had the other day where I was talking to mate, he's retired from rugby, and he said, oh yeah, people say to him all the time, oh, like, oh, don't you need something to train for? And he was like, no, I love training. Like, I just love the discipline of like, you know, he does 3 sessions a week and does a little conditioning session as a fourth session. Um, and it's just something he'll do forever. Like, he doesn't need specific goals, doesn't need to say, right, we're going for a 200 deadlift on this next cycle. He doesn't need, right, we're doing a half marathon, so we're going to train for that. Just really loves training. Like, just loves, being, as he calls it, like fit for life. He's a dad now, just wants to be strong, mobile, be able to run about a bit, like, and be the best he can. Like, he's not casual with it. Like, he trains very seriously, but and he was saying his brother is very much like he needs that half marathon to train for, and then he's all in, and just got me thinking from a coaching point of view how everybody's different. People, some people are going to need those specific goals. Like, we have our testing week with Barbell Club, and sometimes people are really into that. And it's like, right, I want to hit that new 1 rep max. Other people maybe not so concerned. Some people, need that sport to be training for. Some people retire from sport and find it a little bit tricky. So I thought it was an interesting conversation, and very much shows how people are different.
You do find people that are in it for like life and they just enjoy the process of training. And I think they naturally gravitate towards training at MSC. But then you look at other places that do like the transformation kind of style stuff. And that's very much like 12 weeks all in. And that for some people is massive. Is it sustainable? Maybe not. Is it something you can do as a bit of a kickstart and then find something more sustainable after? Maybe. But like, there's definitely the two camps of like internally motivated where I just enjoy training. Naz is a great example. Like, she's done 4 sessions a week. She hasn't missed a week since we've trained. She hasn't missed a session since we started training. And she just loves training.
Mm-hmm.
And if she ever, similar to Matt, and if she ever missed, well, she's never missed a session, but if she misses a lift, it doesn't massively affect her. If she doesn't get better, she doesn't massively affect her. She just enjoys the process of training. If it's going good or bad, she accepts it. It's not always going to be going perfectly, but she just enjoys training. And then you get other people that like really slack off if they haven't got a competition or something to work towards, and they just find it super difficult to internally motivate. And they're like, why am I doing this? Like, why am I coming to the gym 3-4 times a week? What is the purpose? And then they get a competition booked in, or they've got like a race or something like that. And all of a sudden they're in the gym all the time. They're training a little bit harder. And people seem to fall into into one of the two. I personally, like, I love training, but if I have a competition, it's just that extra few percent where I'm really starting to be a little bit more motivated, and I try and, dot the I's and tick the T's, or whatever they say, cross the T's. I try and, get everything 100%, while if I haven't got a competition, it might be like at 90, 95%. It's definitely up another level if there is something in the.
He's still training, and
I'm still training, still love it, but just that extra little bit of a push if there is something in where I'm like externally working towards a competition or something like that.
When you do eventually hang up the wheels, which camp do you think you'll be in? Will you be someone who you're gonna book in a 3 peaks challenge and you're going to train for that? That's going to be flat out, or are you going to be more the Matty Clark is going to be just loving training?
I like the idea of just training all the time, and then being in a position where if someone asks me to do it, I can do it. So I'd love to be like 15.
Yes.
Like, I just train 4 days a week. Someone says, "Do you want to climb Snowdon?" I'll be like, "Yeah, I can do it." But have you trained for Snowdon? I'm like, "No, I just train and I can do it."
But
I can do it.
I can do that on Saturday.
Do you want to go and do some sprinting? Yeah, sound. Yeah, I can do it.
Yes.
So I like the idea of being kind of strong and fit enough to just be able to do any kind of challenge that I have.
And having the time to do it would be quite nice. It's probably one thing I'm looking forward to with rugby. Like, is when that's gone, is like actually just like, I can do that.
Yeah.
Snowdon challenge, or I can do.
Yeah. But I do think I'll always have something that I want to do. So if I finish with powerlifting, which you don't have to finish with powerlifting. I guess you could do masters rugby as well, but like
you can.
Powerlifting could go on forever. But I would always like to have something, I think, to work towards. I'm not sure exactly what. Maybe walking basketball. I seen a video of that the other day. Walking basketball in my 60s.
Rugby, actually, down at Bourneville. So that could be one for me next year. I think I'd be like in the middle. I think like even if I'm not competing anything, I will still be like Matty. I'll be training. Like, there's no, like, training is going to be with me forever now. Like, I'm never going to not training my whole life. Like it's ingrained in me now. But and I will just enjoy training. I think very similar to yourself, just all round qualities, being as strong as possible, and being ready to go and do a hike,
Take life
to go and play
head
to
on.
go and do something, but maybe those little set
Elements of
challenges every now and
spice.
again, elements of spice.
Yeah. I guess the
Might be thrown
comparison
in
of
there.
the powerlifting to you would be like, you finish your season. Do you find that most people in rugby at the level that you're playing at for like Bournemouth, do you find that they're more motivated right before the start of the season when the season's in sight, rather than like, let's say they've had a month to kind of recover, recoup, and then it's kind of like off season / pre-season. Do you find, because that's the time really to get the work in to make some noticeable changes, but do you find people's motivation is higher when they don't know that the season's coming in? I don't want to call it panicking and starting to pick things up a notch, but
100%. Yeah, 100%.
so even for sports people, having the sport competition.
Yeah, there's a deadline of like September of like, right, I need to be ready.
So rather than
I need to be fit for
July
September.
putting in the work, when you get to pre-season, it's like, fucking hell, I've got to get in shape.
Yeah,
They've missed out on all that time, and all of a sudden they're going for it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 100%. So there's that definitely comes into it. Middle of the way through the season is a bit like, okay, I'm just doing what I can, like just maintaining or whatever.
When you get to the goal setting thing, do you think people that are like internally motivated, like Matty Clark, do you think will focus more on like goals like, okay, my goal is to turn up to the gym 3 times a week for 50 weeks a year, rather than saying I want to hit a 200 kilo squat?
Yeah, and he actually does that, and he's a bit of an admin nose. So literally,
Ticking
like
it
every
off.
year, he keeps an Excel sheet of like Monday to Sunday, and just literally puts like across whatever in the days he's done. And his big proud thing is he hasn't missed a Monday for like 4 years or something. So there's definitely that sort of goal, and it will literally at the end of the year. Christmas, he'll be like, right, the 52 weeks, he's like, right, I've done 176 sessions,
Nice.
For the year. And like, so that's definitely one of his goals. And like I was saying earlier, I didn't want to make it sound like he hasn't got any goals. Like he has his, he wants to be as strong as possible. In terms of specific numbers and things, maybe that is a bit more of the, I don't want to miss a session. I want to be consistent. I want to like enjoy my training. I want to be like injury free.
Yeah. We have to say to people when they talk about like, your initial goals, and the goals are very rarely, I want to train 4 times a week forever. They'll often say, I want to do this, I want to hit this number. And it is incredibly tough when it's like not fully under your control, because you could do everything you could possibly do and not squat 200 kilos. You could eat well, you could train well, and still not get that specific number. It just might not be there. But you can control turning up 4 times a week, and you can say like, I'm going to have optimal nutrition, or like I'm going to have a post-workout meal, pre-workout meal. I'm going to hit my protein target 5 out of 7 days a week. You can have all these numbers that you like, these are my goals, and they're not like externally motivated. And the things that you can, the things that are fully in your control is probably a better goal than saying, I want to win the league at rugby, which is not based off your performance. It's based off everyone else.
Yeah, it's cliche, but like controlling the controllables, the things that are inside your area of influence. So like rugby, okay, are we, is a goal, to win the league? Like, okay, tough one, got promoted like, only last season and first season in this league. Is it a realistic goal? Maybe not, but what you can, the goals you can set are, right, we're going to hit, as a team, X amount of training attendance on average, or we're going to do, we're going to complete, we're going to win 80% of our scrummages or whatever. Like, you're setting goals that you have more of a chance to control. Rugby is a bit more extent. You come against a good scrum and like you might not get that. But so it's a bit easier in the gym. But like certainly in the gym, like with your health and fitness, you control what you can control. And like you say, like I can control going to gym, training 3 times a week, every week for the next 10 years. Can I hit a 220 squat? I don't know. Like maybe not, but I can do everything I can. You have you pull a hamstring,
This
you
is
do
it.
all the rehab you possibly can, and you control the controllables. That you can do all that rehab, you can reduce your chances significantly. Now, look, it might go again, but you've controlled what you can
Yeah.
control, and then it's in the lap of
But that's
the
like, so, yeah,
gods
if you set the
after that.
goal with the, just you might say, I don't want to get, my goal is to stay injury free all year round.
Mm,
It's super, super tough because you could just get a hit from the side, something could be slightly off. But you could say, I'm going to do everything I can to stay injury free, which is I'm going to do my strength training 3 times a week. I'm going to make sure I'm sleeping,
do my forearm drills.
do 400 drills. I'm going to make sure I sleep 8 hours,
Yeah.
5 days a week, especially like a couple of games, a couple of days before games. I'm going to make sure my post workout nutrition is on point. So you can't say I'm going to stay injury free, but you can work backwards from that and say, what is the best way to stay injury free? These are the goals that I can control. And it's the same with like what you've just said about the scrimmaging. You can't say, because you might go against some phenomenal teams,
Yeah.
but you could say, okay, what can we do to win the small scrimmages? Say, I'm going to turn up to training twice a week. We're going to try and
We're
get
going to spend
90.
30 minutes on Tuesday.
Yeah, we're going to have a 90% attendance for training minimum, and we're going to work on scrimmages for this amount of time. And that's going to increase your chances then of hitting the goal, which you can't control, but you're doing everything you can to actually hit that goal. And I think that's a better thing to do. So I say, like, for powerlifting, I want to hit a 250 squat. I say, okay, that number's hard to say, but what I can do is when I go to the gym, I'm lifting with intent when I turn up. I'm training 4 days a week hard. I'm trying to eat the good foods. I'm trying to keep my sleep on point. I'm trying to take the supplements. And all of this then is in control. And these are the things that need optimized to hit the goal. But the number goal is difficult to say, but I do everything I can to get there.
Score takes care of itself. So
Because you used to say,
little
train hard, compete easy, or train easy, compete hard. That used to be your saying, didn't
a
it?
great man that said that with me. It's the score takes care of itself. Is actually a book I read a couple of years back. American football coach Bill Walsh, and it's a really interesting book actually, and it is literally all about um, immaculate preparation. As a coach, he would talk about controlling controllables, everything that he could possibly do to prepare that team the best he possibly could for that day was what he went all in on 100%. And then the name of the book, The Score Takes Care of Itself, is literally, the players went onto the pitch. It's in the lap of the gods. Like, it's kind of like he's done everything he can to prepare that team, to do the absolute best they can. And because of that, the score will look after itself. Like, you can't control the opposition.
Yeah.
You can't.
I was thinking about that when you said that about the goals of like winning the league. But forget about winning it. Let's say that's a bit too high. But let's say you want to come, I don't know, top
four,
10.
top six.
Let's say top half of the league, just for the sake of this combo. You want to come, how many's in the league? 16?
Yeah.
16. I want to come in the top 8, and you come ninth, but you've done everything fantastically well. And you can be super proud of what you've done, and you've left questioning nothing. You're like, do you know what? We've come ninth. We set the goal of coming top 8. We've come ninth, but we've fucking trained hard. We've done everything we can. Would that be better than saying like than coming 8th and have like done it half-assed and said, well, actually, if we'd have done all this properly, maybe we'd have come a little bit higher. I don't know which one's better, but
yeah, no, you got. I think there's, I think, doing everything you can and finishing that place below, like, is more fulfilling, for sure.
Not everything's a lesson. Sometimes it just doesn't go your way.
Sometimes you just say, "Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it."
It's just, it's life. It's life."
Yeah.
But yeah, for sure. I think it carries over to anything in life, isn't it? Like, if you if you're preparing well, you're controlling what you can, you're doing everything you can, and something doesn't quite work out, then you go to a job interview, you prep, about the company inside out, you've done your CV immaculate, you turn up, you present yourself well, you look good, you speak well, and then employ someone else. But you've done everything you can, then you can't get upset about the things that are out, that are not in your hands.
Is there anything I could have done differently?
Yeah,
if you're questioning that, then
exactly. Yeah. So
decent.
RPEs, intensities,
Yeah,
things like that. we were going to talk about?
We've had a couple of people join Barber Club recently. Slightly different kind of style of training they've had previously to what they've had previously, where they've been kind of doing the quote unquote bro split. Where we with the Barber Club, it's 3 strength sessions a week, very much full body sessions. So one day's a bit more squat dominated, one's a bit more hinge dominated. The other one again is a bit of a variance of the squat. We normally work in that kind of sub-maximal RPE, so like a few reps in reserve, trying to build up through this phasic structure of kind of building towards a heavier week 4. And that some people just feel like they're not really training that hard. So just going to talk a little bit about kind of the benefits of like training slightly more sub-maximally, the benefits of allowing yourself to progress through a training block, and kind of looking at it from like a holistic long-term approach rather than looking at it as like individual sessions and individual weeks. So, and then a little bit about like how you can be a bit more accurate with your RPEs.
I think the thing to begin with is saying like you don't need to be training maximally every week. You know, I mean, very rarely indeed. Like, you know, most of your training can be sub-maximal, and you know that's how you're going to make the best progress. So I think it's probably important to just note that you know we're not saying like you need to be looking at training at 100% intensity all the time. And then within that, I think one of the things we want to talk about was, some people just aren't pushing hard enough. Some people are, pushing too hard.
People definitely fall into one of the two camps where they're either trying to do way too much, they're trying to do all the sessions, everything's 10 RP, or there's people that just aren't applying things probably as hard as they could do, which is absolutely fine. But then if you question why you maybe not making as good gains as other people, then maybe taking a closer look and having a reason why that is happening is probably a good idea too. The people that are training too much, I mean, it's a nice problem to have when someone wants to do too much. Mm-hmm. It's a lovely problem compared to not wanting to turn up to the gym. And it's just trying to apply people's intent in the right places, because you want people to work hard. You want people to be mindful in the gym. You want people to be training hard, but within the kind of sub-maximal constraints that we've put on. And the rationale is when you look at like hypertrophy gains, the benefits of going to failure are very, very, very minimal. In fact, there's probably a detriment to them. And you look at like the amount of fatigue you're going to create from a set of going to full failure or like failing a rep. The effect that's going to have on the next session, the effect it's going to have on your next set is probably going to have a more effect on your overall training volume, which is then going to affect your training outcome compared to someone training at different RPEs, anywhere from between like 6 to 8 RPEs, probably our typical RPEs. Mm-hmm. Someone spending a lot more time in that kind of range is going to be a lot easier to accumulate good quality work and have a better set after. So if you can do 3 sets of 6 at 7 RPE rather than doing 1 to 10 RPE, then the next 2 sets being at detriment. But then also the next session as well, especially when you're doing kind of that full body approach, where you're doing like heavy squats on a Monday. If you're going to failure come Wednesday, your deadlift's probably going to suffer. Yeah. But it's the same with doing the bodybuilder split, where if you do bench press to full failure, your next exercise, which would typically be the incline dumbbell press, your output on that is going to be so much lower from taking things to full failure that it's going to be a detriment to the overall process of trying to get stronger / bigger. So I think it's just the education on there, but then also like taking into account like your phasic structure, that you can't train to 10 RP every single week. No. And you're trying to learn to like kind of learn where to push and where to ease back. And it's another conversation I had in the week with one of my clients is like talking about like the repeated bout effect and kind of training a rep scheme over a multitude of weeks and actually adapting to that stimulus and allowing yourself to kind of progress towards like a good week 4 or week 5 or however long your training blocks are, giving yourself a chance to progressively get better at those rep schemes, adapting to the specific adaptations that you're training, allowing yourself to get stronger through that block and then having a really good finish on week 4.
That's where you don't need too many changes week to week, like in the micro, like sometimes like a lot of my programs, like, in an off season, for example, might be 3 sets of 6 week 1, 3 sets of 6 week 2, 3 sets of 6 week 3, 3 sets of 6 week 4. You don't it's actually just quite a similar RPE, but because I'm getting a bit stronger and I'm feeling a bit better, I'm getting a bit fitter and stronger, like the weight's naturally going to be a little bit better.
Exactly.
And then I'm maybe pushing real hard on that week 3 or week 4.
Absolutely, because that's another thing.
Have the change of stimulus with different exercise or different rep schemes and things like that.
Literally, what you've just said. Because some people do like the escalating RPEs. You might do 6, 7, 8, 9 RPE, which is fine. But then like sometimes they might map out what they want to get. So they might say, okay, at 9 RP, I want to get 100 squats. So the week before, I'll do 95, then 90, then 85. And that linearity sounds fantastic. And you think, oh, wicked, like I'm going to get 5 kilos stronger every single week as the RPE goes up. But you're not then taking into account that you're actually getting stronger from that stimulus.
Yes.
So you've probably got to start slightly lighter and then maybe take a slightly bigger jump, especially towards the end of the block. It's super like, you think, oh, it's going to add 5 kilos every week. But week one, let's say you've had a deload, you're slightly weaker. Your max might be 10 kilo less for that day because it's a moving target. It might be 10 kilo less than what you're typically doing. You come into the next week, you're a little bit stronger, but then you might get a lot stronger from them last 2 weeks, take a bigger jump. So that's why we use the RPE as well, is to then take into account as the weeks go on, as you get stronger from the stimulus, your jumps might get bigger. And at the start, they might be a little bit smaller.
Yeah.
But if you overshoot on that first week and then create that fatigue debt, coming into week 2, you're not able to push as well as you wanted to. Week 3, you do the same number. Week 4, it might finish a lot less than if you started a little bit lighter, gave yourself a chance to progress while still hitting the RPEs. And ultimately, your body doesn't know what the weight is. It's just looking for the stimulus. And if you're hitting at least a 6-ish RPE, you're going to get a good enough stimulus for hypertrophy as well as strength. So it's knowing when to push within that block and when to kind of ease back a little bit. Yeah. And I think typically we're asking people to scale it back a touch and then push on a little bit towards the end of the block. And when we say ease it back, we just mean like be slightly more conservative with your RPE. Just don't overshoot.
Yeah, 100%. Comes from experience, doesn't it? I guess in terms of like, some people might be listening and saying, well, how do I know? How do I, and it's a bit of trial and error, isn't it? It's a bit of, obviously getting some good coaching helps, massively, and will save you a lot of time. But, it's, it comes from training age, doesn't it?
I was going to say, because coaching helps, but you have to take some accountability for like choosing your, you can't have someone say, Mark, can you have a look and tell me, should I do 110 or 112? Yeah. But you can have like a number that you do. Like I've got a number on deadlift. I'm sure you've got one on trap bar where you might be like, right, I'm going to do 200 on the trap bar, see how it feels. And then I can make a decision from there. And you go, oh,
my last warm up.
Yeah, my last warm up felt slightly slower than what I normally would want it to. I'm going to ease it back. Or I feel fantastic. I'm going to push it on.
Well, we have the AMRAPs, don't we? Which we keep, we use to keep the, the barbell guys honest.
I love AMRAP month. We don't do it all the time, but we'll probably do it a couple of times a year where we use it to kind of calibrate people's RPEs. And we've got it this block actually. So week 1's fairly easy. I think they've got like, especially for your accessory exercises, you've got like 2 sets of 10 at 7 RPE, let's say. Yeah. The next week, you've got 2 sets of 10 at 7 and then 1 set as an AMRAP.
Yeah.
So in theory, if you've done it exactly right, that set of 10, you should only get 13 reps and then you should be done. Some of the numbers, like see some people get like 9. Some people get like so they took it to 10. Other people, they're getting like 27 reps. If you do more than 20 reps on a set of 10 7 RPE, you're training at 0 RPE, which means you're nowhere near heavy enough to get the stimulus that you want.
You're not heavy enough to get the stimulus. You're nowhere near what you're capable of. You're a lot stronger than you think, or maybe you're just not. Maybe you've been a bit lazy. I think it's brilliant. When we've done it before, it's you can really see who's, got it right with the RPEs and who's just like training way under where they could be.
Yeah.
And that's a cool thing. Like, you know then, and a lot, 90,
it is education.
99% of people will be like, shit, I could be doing a lot. I could be training a lot harder. It gives them the confidence then.
Because you say a 6 RPE to someone. Push up. And they're thinking, wow, that should be really easy. Actually, mate, a set of 6 Bulgarian split squat, a set of 10 at 6 Bulgarian ball squat, 6 RPE. I've got to be honest, I don't think I've ever done a Bulgarian split squat to a 6 RPE.
A dumbbell Bulgarian split squat, like the only time I've ever got, I think, honestly, up to like 6, 7 RPE, maybe 8 is like safety bar, like hand support, where I'm like caning like sets of 3 or 4. Yeah. Like, dumbbell, like as an accessory, that's what is one of my main movements. As a accessory movement, a dumbbell Bulgarian split squat, like, have I ever been above 3 RPE? Like, wow. Because that's you're searching into the depths of your soul. But doing a genuine 7 RPE Bulgarian split squat, like, that's hard.
Leg press is the other one as well.
Reps in reserve, you got like 3 reps in reserve there. That's hard. That's absolutely horrifying. Yeah.
But when someone's coming in and saying like, oh, like I'm not feeling sore, is these training sessions hard enough? And you say, well, okay, last week you did 15 kilos on the Bulgarian split squat. You do AMRAP in this week and they get 25 reps. And you're like, well, you can see now. And it just helps people give that visual and that kind of understanding of where the RPE should be, because no one fully understands where it is. People get the idea of not going to full failure and then they swing too far the other way and they start to miss the RPE fully. But once you've done an AMRAP and you're like, okay, I've missed it by 10 reps. Yeah. And then you can start to apply that into your own training. I think it's massive just to calibrate that RPE.
I just think it's funny as well to see people like struggling on a set like that.
I love it.
Like, it's just funny. Right?
Especially like the machine work as well.
Yeah.
Where you can push safely.
You can push safely and it's like, go. And they're like, yeah, I think I'm done. And it's like
mate, you're moving fast.
Left,
yeah.
You know, get it done. And just taking people outside of the comfort zone into that, like, there has to be a place for that in the world still, of like, don't be
see
soft.
What you're made of. Yeah.
Don't be soft. See what you're made of. We had like one set, it's, you know, and such a rare thing, but like,
and I think once you've got,
just go, what have you got? And like, you know, that might be something. You know, I love like training in pre-season, off-season, because I will have like those moments where it's just like absolutely
time to work. But if you've got that information then, and you might say, do you know what, I can't do that every week. I don't want to do it every week. I don't want to do a split squat to 6 RPE every week. Fair enough, but at least then you've got the information to say in your back pocket, say, okay, I'm not getting the results I want. What can I do differently? Well, actually, when I did the AMRAPs, I was way off, because not everyone. I mean, I don't want to do a 6 RPE Bulgarian split squat every single time, but if I'm like, okay, I really want to gain some muscle mass on my quads, what can I do differently? You've got the understanding then to do it.
Okay, I've got a lot more room in the tank to push that.
I'm really excited for one of the people from Barbell Club was telling me that they don't very often get sore from the sessions. And then I watched them do their accessories and it was very, very low RPE. And they were like, oh, I don't think I could do much more. And I'm really excited to watch them next week. And I'm going to like be standing behind them on lat pull down as they're trying to, like, no, I'm done. Again. No. Again. Like still got like another 10 reps. Yeah, look, we can apply this a little bit more. I was going to talk about like the soreness thing as well, because like we know that muscle soreness is like novelty is the thing that creates muscle soreness. We never judge the session by how sore you are getting. But then when we're talking about like pushing these RPEs, like typically in the program, the higher rep stuff that's on like the machine where you're shortening the muscle seems to be what we're pushing a little bit harder than any time you're lengthening. So like a hamstring curl is not going to create as much fatigue as like an RDL where you're lengthening through the hamstrings. Obviously, there's more things that are happening there. But like you're able to push these accessories pretty much all the time around. Like a leg extension to full failure versus like a leg press is just completely different kettle of fish. And you can probably do the leg press to full failure and you probably train the day after and you would be okay. You'd be sore at the time.
Do you think we should be pushing harder on our accessories, 100%. Generally speaking?
100%. I can't see, it's something I'm
massive. I need to get out of that habit sometimes, like where it's just like, right, big lifts are done, accessories, you know, you go through the motions, you're getting it done. You know, do you need to put your foot down sometimes?
Obviously, as a newly single man, my desire to push my bicep curls has got a little bit higher recently.
I've seen you breaking sweat on a.
But genuinely, like I've been pushing my accessories way harder, not just like bicep curls, but like leg press, leg extension. I did leg extension on Monday and Tuesday, and my legs were so sore immediately after. Day after, I felt fine, but I've been pushing my accessories so much harder, and I've got no full proof for it, but I feel like I've gained some good muscle mass. I feel the.
Do you feel any extra fatigue when you?
No, I feel fantastic, session? And I have to say, it was one of my clients, Amy, that she mentioned that she didn't like doing RPE 6 or 7 at the time. I was programming lower RPE accessories, and it's something I've massively changed my opinion on now. Where I'm like,
pull down 9 RPE.
Why not? Like it's not going to affect your deadlift. Yeah. Tricep extension to 7 RPE, do it to the 9 RPE, because the problem with it is when you're saying 7 RPE, if you are missing it by 1 or 2,
even if the 9 RPE is not a true 9 RPE,
you're within the ball mark. Yeah, you're in the ball mark of where it needs to be, and it's just not going to create the kind of fatigue that you need to worry about. Like if I do a deadlift to 8 or 9 RPE, I'm fucked. Like I'm done then. Like yesterday I did one to about 7. If I'd have done another couple of reps today, I'd be fucked. And then Friday would probably be out the window. So squats and deadlifts is that kind of progressive where I'm building it up over the training block. Week 4, I'm having a big week, and then I take a deload week, and then I go again where I'm trying to start a little bit higher than week 1, but starting lower than week 4 and then building it back up again.
Yeah.
But mate,
But
absolutely
pushing your accessories,
leg
that's a
extension,
goal.
hamstring. I'm
Yeah.
pushing it all the time now, and I feel great for it as well.
Do you know what, Luke? I'm gonna have that as a goal.
Is that
over the next
motivated you?
Yeah,
Right,
it has. No, it has.
internal
It has.
motivation.
I think I'm guilty of. I I do train hard, but I think with the accessories sometimes I do pony about a little bit, and I do go through the motions. I'm very strict now. Like I'm back to old school, like time and rest and stuff like that. But am I really pushing those accessories? And especially at the moment when I'm not even got the excuse of play. I mean, we've just started preseason games, but
Yeah.
like they're not obviously
Yeah,
important. Like this is the time to absolutely go full goo, even if there is a fatigue element that is going to affect you the next day. It's like, so what? Train hard. And so I will over the next month, and you can ask me how it's going in next week or whatever, and keep an eye on it. Make sure I'm training hard on my accessories, and even in season, I think
you're fine.
I think you can use it as I think you can use it as an excuse sometimes. I think when I first was a proper S&C keno, and in my early days, I've still done a lot of research by then. I was really like anti, the whole in seasons maintenance. I was like, no, there's still ways. If you do this, if you do that, you have your high days. And this is 10 years ago. Like, if you have your hard day here, and then you can train high frequency, but less intensity, etc., etc. And then over the years, sort of draw that back, and I'm a bit more like, nah, do you know what? In season maintenance, blah blah blah. I think you can definitely go too far that way, as in myself as a player and a coach, but also the S&C world in general, and even some of the top coaches, most well-renowned coaches in the world, I think I think they do sometimes need to go back to that mindset 10 years ago, or at least find a little bit of middle ground.
Medium,
find that medium, which shock is normally the way of where it should land, of actually like, do you know what, like on a Monday, like game Saturday, recovery Sunday, train Monday. Okay, it's not going to be the hardest session in the world, but those accessories, like, come on, like I can push those, and I think that's something where we've all got a bit soft,
Yeah.
So that might be something for the upcoming.
The time thing is interesting as well, because when you say, "Oh, I've only got an hour," like, "Oh, I don't want to train longer than an hour because I've got the rugby training." Like, as soon as you start timing your rest period and be a bit more mindful of that, you get so much more work in as well. You might say, "I've only got an hour to train," and then Leanne did a powerlifting session yesterday in 55 minutes. Like, she had to get in and out because the dog was at home, and she didn't warm up.
Parkinson's law, sir.
Yeah. Mate, she was like, she comes.
If you've got 3 hours to train, you'll use 3 hours to train. If you've got an hour, you'll do it.
She says, I'm only going to do deadlift and bench. And then actually, in the end, she got all of her training done. And it probably wasn't optimal because she supersetted everything. She didn't warm up for deadlift, but she could easily have done that in an hour. She could have done that in an hour and 20. And it's like, okay, so there's no excuse really.
Full powerlifting session, good standard,
hour and a half, 2 hours max. Like sometimes it's 3 hours, and you look at it, you're taking 6 minutes between your lat pull down, which probably isn't ideal anyway. So be a bit more intentful with your accessories. Push it to a 9 RPE.
That's a lesson. That's a lesson to take, isn't it?
Yeah.
Today, I think it's a good place to stop.
Do your accessories, kids.
Do your accessories. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Ciao.